they're going to come away with incredible experiences and build incredible relationships, be part of a community that's growing and like diversifying, expanding.
We went to the amusement park, or the theme park, I should say. This man and his son, they saw us going on the rides, and the dad was too scared to go on the rides with his son. So this random guy comes up to me and asks me if I can do all the rides with his son. And I ended up spending the day with this kid. His dad was just taking loads of pictures. And it was just really cute and really funny.
Hi everyone, this is Alex from Ninja Teacher, and I'm joined today by Zach and Toro. We are going to be talking about teaching English in Vietnam and their experiences of living and teaching here. So if you want to quickly introduce yourselves, where you're from, your names.
I'm Zach, I'm from London, and I've been out here for a year now. I actually did Alex's course 3.5 years ago now, but back again for some more.
Awesome.
And my name is I.A. Toro, but you can call me Toro. I've been here for 3.5 years, and I'm from Bermuda.
Great. So I'm interested to hear from you guys what originally made you want to come teach English in Vietnam.
Personally, I knew I always wanted to teach, and I wanted to try something new, something different from what I was used to back at home. I wanted to get out of that bubble. Started researching online, found courses in Korea, but I think it was your videos actually on YouTube that kind of drew me to Vietnam. I started thinking about whether I wanted to do it online or in person, and I kind of thought it would be very difficult to move to a new country where you don't know a single person and sort of have a social life and meet people if you don't do the in-person course. So we looked into that and ended up doing it.
Well, for me, I've actually always had this goal of working for like an international NGO of some kind. And at the time, I was looking for work overseas, and the plan was to only stay here for 6 months. So I got my TEFL, and then I was going to come over here, teach, gain some experience working in another country, and then hopefully use that experience to help me apply for an international NGO of some kind. But all that changed. I ended up loving teaching here more than I thought that I would. And yeah, it's been 3.5 years now.
Wow, nice. So what made you both choose Vietnam specifically for a country to teach in?
That's a good question. I honestly think it was just a random shot in the dark for me. At the time, I didn't think I'd be sticking around in one place too long. I thought I'd be hopping about a little bit. So start with Vietnam, see how that goes, and then if I like it, stay. If I don't, go. But when you come here and you actually meet people, and it kind of becomes a base at that point. So that's what's kept me here, and that's what's going to keep me here now.
For me, honest truth was I didn't know that much about Vietnam. So I chose Vietnam because out of all the countries in the southeast of Asia, it was the one I knew the least about. And I wanted to choose somewhere where I could learn more about the culture, about the people, and more about, I don't know, just living and working here. I wanted to do something really different, you know, something that was very different to what I was doing at the time, which was working in the UK. Yeah, it worked out very well for me.
Awesome. What were you doing before you came out?
So I was working for a housing association. They basically ran like a charity called 1625 Independent People. And we worked with homeless 16 to 25-year-olds, providing them with housing and support. But I wanted to use that experience to eventually help other people out here in Vietnam as well. And I thought teaching would be the best way for me to do that.
Yeah, I did my degree in politics, and after that I started teaching at special needs schools around London. One of the guys that I played football with knew that I had a bit of time, like a year or two in between when I finished and when I went to travel. And he set me up with, he was a sort of teaching recruiter. He set me up as a job working as a TA at a special needs school in London, and I loved it. I loved every second of it. The children I worked with had social, emotional and mental health issues. They would be diagnosed or they would be kicked out of their mainstream school in primary school because of behaviour issues. They don't know how to socialise, and they'd end up at something called a PRU, which was a pupil referral unit. When they get kicked out, all the kids that get kicked out get put into one place. And it was rough, but I had a time of my life. Some of the stuff those kids were coming up with was hilarious, and it wasn't until they came to us where we sent them to psychologists and they got diagnosed with autism, sort of other mental health issues, and we kind of felt like it was unfair on the schools that they were at before to send them away without doing all those checks to sort of help them out. But that really got me into teaching and working with kids, and I knew that when I left, that's what I wanted to continue doing.
With regards to Vietnam and living here, what would you say are some of the highlights of life in Vietnam and living and teaching English in Vietnam?
The highlights are the people. I think I know quite a few people who live in sort of more less foreign areas or areas where they're more isolated, and I know I get the sense that they don't have as good a time, but for me it's just the social side of it, the football, the teaching. That's what makes the experience for me. I think when you see later on when the kids come, just how excited they all get and everything, and even when we're together, like just myself and Tara last night, it's just the buzz is there when you're around people that are going through the same experience as you.
I have to agree with Zach, for me it's the energy when I enter a classroom here. The excitement and the connection between the kids is honestly the most special thing I've ever experienced in my life, whether it is with the charity work that we do or within the classroom. The experience of working with the kids and seeing them grow, and the energy that they give off and the energy that you give to them, that's been the best part about teaching here. Going into school, you feel like a superstar, especially if you are a foreigner here. Lots of the students, they see you as someone who's coming here to do something positive. So they're very excited to see you when you come into the class.
Yeah, that's great to hear from you guys, because I think that's people who are very passionate about teaching. It's great to see for me because not everyone is, and I think it's also okay that if you see it as a job and you just do a good job, that's okay as well. But I love to see when people are like really passionate about it and enjoy it. So it's nice to hear from you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
So a bit more about what life is like in Vietnam. Do you find that the day-to-day life here is exciting, fun? How do you like the food and the Vietnamese culture, that kind of stuff?
I absolutely love the Vietnamese culture, and you learn something new every day. And you start to pick up on those phrases that the kids say, the teachers say every now and then. Choi oi has become a favourite of mine now. I started as a joke, but now I can't stop saying it.
Yeah.
It's just stuck in my head now.
It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
As the foreigner in the country, you're always kind of, you see the hospitality and sort of the welcoming nature of Vietnamese people as well. Whenever I walk past any street or any school, there's always an interaction I have with someone. I'm never just walking and no one's saying anything. There's always something positive that I can take away from a simple walk or like going to the shop. And that's the kind of stuff that keeps people here. I think they are very welcoming people here in general.
The food is definitely a plus for me. My favorite Vietnamese food is bun thit nung.
Okay.
If you've had it before.
Oh yeah.
Or bun cha from Hanoi.
Also some of my favorites.
Some of your favorites?
Yeah.
I just had it before I came here.
Nice.
So the food for one, and similar to being in school, day-to-day interactions with people, like Zach said, are very friendly and very exciting. Sometimes you feel like a celebrity because people want to, from my experience, take pictures with me, or just want to have a conversation with me, want to practice their English. To be like, hey, I'm learning English, can I practice my English by speaking to you? And I've never lived somewhere other than my own country where people off the street will just come up to you and just start conversations with you like that. That
true.
For me is very special. It makes me feel welcomed, and it gives me like a community feel. I feel like part of the community, both with foreigners and with the Vietnamese here, which is big for me.
Yeah, so many times people just sitting at a table on the side of the street will just call you over to come eat and drink with them and like give you a beer. It's crazy. You wouldn't experience that in most countries.
No,
right?
people actually even go out of their way. My bike broke down about 40 minutes out of the city last week, and someone told me there was a mechanic about 20 minutes down the road, but we had to wheel the bike. And I remember I got about 10 minutes down the road, and there were people, like multiple people, circling around asking me if I needed a push to the mechanic.
Right.
Just little things like that. I feel like people genuinely go out of their own way to help others around here.
And then you're going for like, few kilometers with the guy pushing you. He's driving his bike, and then you're like trying to balance on your bike with no power.
It's so much more difficult to balance on the bike when someone's kicking you.
It is. What are some of the other interesting experiences and moments you've had in Vietnam that you think would be interesting to share?
One of the cool memories that stuck with me is Darren's birthday.
Okay.
When we went up to the villa as well. I'd arrived, I've only been there for a few months at that time, and I met Toro playing for the Saints. And
Football team,
yeah. The football team that we play for in Saigon. Saigon Saints as well, give that a shout out. I met Toro through that, and Toro knew Darren and Oscar and Tomasz through three other names. He knows them through the course that you did, right?
Only one of them from the course, but all from football.
All from football as well. And for Darren's birthday, I think it was November, we all went up to a villa in it's about 20-30 minutes from here. And I remember just then thinking, this is a great experience. There's lovely people here, like something that I wouldn't do often back in the UK, but it just felt very wholesome. Like the group just felt very great.
Yeah, that's a really nice thing in Vietnam when you go away with friends, and it's always like renting a villa, right?
Yeah.
It's like you get a villa, you hang out either by the beach or somewhere cool, and just hang out with friends and experience like different parts of Vietnam.
It's very affordable to be able to go, okay, let's rent a villa with a pool by the beach for this weekend. You can go with groups of people that you've met here, and that's really special. Something that I personally wasn't really able to do in other countries that I lived in. And because things are affordable here, rent is affordable, Airbnb is affordable here, you can join with other people and do something like that. So my first time to Vung Tau, we went to the amusement park, or the theme park, I should say. This man and his son, they saw us going on the rides, and the dad was too scared to go on the rides with his son. So this random guy comes up to me and asks me if I can do all the rides with his son. And I ended up spending the day with this kid. And his dad was just taking loads of pictures. And it was just really cute and really funny. That he had that confidence to just come up to some random person and come do the rides with my son. But it was also funny because after I came off one of the rides, there was a whole family. I'm talking parents, children, grandparents, maybe even great-grandparents, all waiting to take photos with me. So it was so funny for me. But yeah, something like that has never happened to me before. And that was only my first couple months here.
And talking of travel, have you guys been able to travel around Vietnam a bit while you're here and seen some of the different cities and places in Vietnam?
Yeah, I went to Vung Tau 2 weeks ago. Actually, went to a place called Monkey Island on the way. So it was about an hour and 10-minute drive, and then you stop, you see the monkeys and everything. One of my friends actually had like her sunglasses snatched off her head.
Oh yeah,
it's quite funny. Like the guard told her before going in, they take your sunglasses and your hat. So she managed to put both on at the same time.
Oh no!
The monkey just took it, but she got it back here. The guards threw a bag of rice for them and they gave it back. Yeah, they can negotiate. They're very clever. They know how much. They know the value of things. Like for your phone, 1 bag of rice, 2 bags,
like
3 bags. Maybe I'll give your phone back to you. But yeah, it was an absolutely incredible experience. And then from there, we drove again, got on the ferry for about half hour, and we were in Vung Tau. And that was all like in the space of a morning. So we managed to get from Ho Chi Minh, see monkeys, like have almost like a whole day excursion, and end up in Vung Tau by like 3 p.m.
So when I first came here, I was traveling with one of my best friends from back home, Connor Lohan. Hello, Connor. We started in Hanoi, went over to Halong Bay, ended up going to Ninh Binh, which I really recommend.
So nice, yeah.
So nice, beautiful, beautiful, up in the mountains. The story of the history of Ninh Binh as well is really special. I'd really recommend visiting Ninh Binh if you're coming to Vietnam. But for me, one of the things I like the most about traveling in Vietnam is you have a real big opportunity to either go to the beach or go into the mountains.
True.
Or you can go into a city. There's an option for everyone. So for me, that's really special.
Yeah, that's nice. If you want to go get some cool weather up in Dalat or in the north of Vietnam, or you can just go to the beaches when it's sunny and hot. So you mentioned about the affordability here, and how have you found that how the teaching salaries here and the living costs, and do you feel like you can live a good lifestyle here while teaching English?
Just some of the stuff that you were able to do here, and just like the Darren's birthday, going to the villa, that would be almost impossible back in London, especially at this point. I've got a lot of friends messaging me actually now in the last year since I've been here, asking me how they can manage to come out here, because they've seen how much more you get from life if you're living in a country like Vietnam than you are if you're living in the UK right now. For the work you do for teaching, the hours that you put in, and what you get paid, well, I struggle to find a better country to be in right now and actually make the most of your life.
I would agree, but I'd also say it's based on how you spend your money. You know, if you are eating local here, you can save a lot of money on food. If you want to buy food from other countries every day, which is possible, you will not save as much. Some people, they prefer to eat American or British or Korean or Japanese food every day, and then that can make it a bit more expensive.
Yeah, I would say on top of that, learning how to ride a motorcycle. That's like that was like one of the most important things for me in terms of like just saving money. I didn't realize how much money I was spending on just just getting around on a Grab or a Gojek bike. Until I got a bike. I was actually hesitant to get one because I'd never ridden a push pedal bike before.
Okay, yeah.
Let alone a motorcycle. But I managed to rent one out a few months ago, and it took me about 3 days to figure it out. And now that saves me about almost 5 million a month on just traveling around, which is insane. To think that's how much I was spending for 6 months. I was out here every month on just getting around from place to place.
Yeah, and how do you guys like riding motorbikes in Vietnam?
Love it.
Yeah.
It's so much fun. And it's a lot safer than it sounds because people are genuinely considerate on the streets, especially in the city. There's police everywhere around the corners, so people are very much aware to drive safely, not do anything stupid, and not do anything silly. But in general, I can't see myself not having a motorbike now in any country that I go to.
Yeah.
Getting a motorbike here, it can be nerve-wracking at first, especially when you see the traffic and how busy the traffic is. But you start to get used to it. It's organized chaos, I like to say. It looks chaotic, but it's organized in its own way.
Right, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Once you figure out how to drive in Vietnam rush hour, you can
drive anywhere.
Drive anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world.
What would you say are some of the other highlights of living, say, in Ho Chi Minh City and things to do here?
Oh, yeah, that's that. I was speaking to a friend who lives up in Hanoi, and when they came down to Ho Chi Minh, they were just amazed at all the little things that we were able to do. We've been doing this thing where we go away like on a weekend to do a day trip. So Vung Tau was one of them, Monkey Island. But there's batting cages in District 7 as well. So it's a bar, restaurant, and you hit baseball for about a good hour. And just little things like that, bowling alley, that is pennies compared to what we'd be paying if we were to be doing the same thing back at home. One of the funnest things I've done though is I've actually suggested it as a trip for the kids to do as well. There's a place in D9, I think it's called BCR Paintball, and it's got like a massive park. It's usually quite empty because it's so far out the city, it's almost out the city really, at outskirts of D9. They have paintballing games, and my favourite one was the Orbi game. You kind of put yourself in a massive inflatable bubble.
Oh yeah.
And there's a huge sumo ring around. And the aim of the game is to knock as many people out the box as you can.
That's awesome.
And I remember doing that, and I just felt like a child again. Like
Yeah.
it felt like I've got videos of it and everything. Like you kind of just go back to your childhood nature where you're like, I've got to dodge, dive, like run around, get chased. But yeah, things like that I wouldn't be able to find very easily in London. But here it's just easily accessible, and you get to go around. Like we've got to do it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to do that.
I want to do the axe throwing. I haven't tried that.
Really?
Yeah,
I do that.
looks
I
fun.
haven't done that either. I think I will. For me, I definitely agree with Zach as well. For me, is the amount of sports activities you can do here. No matter what sport you're interested in, you can find it here. That's how we became friends, through football. A lot of my friendship group are through football as well. And if you do play sport and you enjoy playing sport, Ho Chi Minh City has a lot of sports going on. And I think that's very attractive for people who are active and who want to stay healthy and stay fit.
So how about on the other end of the spectrum, from the healthy to
unhealthy.
nightlife? What do you think about the nightlife here, if you go out at all?
Oh yeah, it's incredible. If you go to District 2, you can see all the foreign restaurants, Tao Dien, Pak Tao. If you want to go out to a bar, there's quite a few around in District 1. We were actually at one last night. We were actually at two last night. We're at one called Le Fay off Boi Vien, which sounds quite chaotic, which when you're new, it's amazing, all the lights and everything. But for somewhere that is that crowded, it's quite hidden away. You have to go through a hotel and go up the stairs, and it's got like neon lights on the roof. We went there last night and then ended up going somewhere called Broma.
Yeah.
We were there for a bit. The music was great. But that's the thing about Vietnam. The foreigner community is it sounds like there's so many foreigners in the city, but at some point you get to know everyone, or you get to know someone who knows someone. So when we go to places like that, we always bump into people that we know from left, right, and centre. So that's just like that tight community feel is just always there. It doesn't matter where you live.
I personally don't go out that much.
Sure.
But last night was very special because it was an Afrobeat night. I think that's something quite exciting about living in Ho Ho Chi Minh City, you can find different types of music if you look for it. And that's really attractive for people who want to live here. You can find Afro beats, you can find house music, techno music, Vietnamese trap, Vietnamese rap, whatever you are into. I know some of my friends went to a surf rock concert last weekend and they loved it. So whatever your genre or interest is, you can find it here.
But we have started to listen to Vietnamese music now. Like Seatin has been like in my head, like
Okay.
it's been in my head for like months now. It's like whistle chorus.
And then there's the Wiener House, which is like pop songs with EDM music.
Yes, going in through it. Oh, I love it.
So going from some of the positives that we've been talking about, what would you say are some of the challenges of living in Vietnam?
The first challenge for me was learning to ride a bike.
Okay.
That was quite difficult at the beginning because I noticed it was quite draining financially, just having to get a grab every time. Another one has been living so far away from my family and not being able to call them as regularly because of the time difference. I'm either at work or asleep, and they're asleep or at work. That's been a difficult thing, but we managed to find ways around that quite easily.
For me, two things I can think of. First can be language barrier at times. Although most Vietnamese people are friendly, sometimes the language barrier makes it difficult to, have a conversation or do a simple interaction with someone. You're going to get that in any foreign country that you live in. And that can make things quite difficult sometimes because the other person may not know what you want, or they may think you want something from them when really everyone is just misunderstanding each other. The other one, even though it is a positive, getting attention, sometimes getting too much attention can be a negative. I've had days where I've had a hard day of work and I'm just in a shop ready to buy something and someone's got their phone out and they're taking a video of me. And I'm like, not today, please, you can ask me first, I'm very friendly. But sometimes that can be a bit too much in your face, but that is not the norm, I'd say. That has only happened a handful of times. But that would be one negative, I'd say.
Getting more into the teaching, you guys have already expressed that you enjoy the teaching, but do you want to tell us a little bit more about what your experience has been like while teaching English here?
I worked for a year at public schools in Govap. The schedule meant that I was going to, I think, about 9 different schools throughout the week. So I'd go to a school in the morning for 7:30 for public school primary, stay there until about 10:30, 10:40, and then they'd have a lunch break from 10:40 until about 1:40. It's a long lunch break where the kids nap, the teachers nap. It's actually quite funny seeing the little nap rooms in the corner of the schools, and like when the kids go with the pillows out towards the last lesson, start brushing their teeth as well in the middle of your lesson sometimes. And then I'd go to a second school in the afternoon, and I loved it. It's like walking in, something that's fresh, it's new. You get to see different faces, meet kids from all walks of life. I was doing different grades, so I was doing from grade 1 all the way up to grade 9, which is like a wide range, so you get to see different stages of their development and their English language. The downside to that is, again, because you're seeing so many kids, you can't really get to know them on an individual level. I think I worked out at some point I was teaching about 600-700 kids a week.
Wow.
And I remember the ones that have the main interactions with you, but for the most part it was very difficult to build that bond with them that you would. For some classes I did manage to build that bond, but for others, because you're only seeing them 1 hour a week so you're realistically 4 hours a month, I found that very difficult. But I've ended up somewhere else now where I'm in a more stable school, and I'm looking forward to actually getting to know the kids and seeing what they're like and seeing them grow throughout the year as well.
My teaching experience has been an interesting progression. Right after I finished my TEFL here, I ended up going into lockdown because of COVID. So right after COVID, I was working in a language center. Really enjoyed the experience. It was a good first experience of teaching for me, I think. I learned a lot from working in a language center. Then moved over to public school, where, similar to what Zach was saying, you teach so many kids throughout the week, literally hundreds. It was quite difficult at times because you weren't getting the strongest connection with your students because you have to teach at so many different schools. To now working at one school where I do have that connection with my class and I get to see them every day. And you get to see them grow every week, and you're seeing them learn. You're learning the skills that you're teaching them and growing into people. really. So for me, being able to be in a stable school where you see the same students multiple times a week has been the best teaching experience for me. Whether it's a language center, whether it's tutoring, whether it's a school, all of these opportunities are awesome here. Whatever you're looking for, you can find it when it comes to teaching.
They want to tell you a joke, ask you, Messi or Ronaldo? Messi or Ronaldo?
Yeah.
Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi
or Ronaldo? They'll ask you multiple times. Like, they just want that interaction, and it's just knowing that there's a group of people, even if you're not feeling the best at that day, there's a group of kids that are just excited for you to be there in the same room as them.
So if someone is considering coming to teach English in Vietnam and thinking about this idea, what would you say to someone like that? So is it something that you'd recommend, or is it something that you think is very personal? What are your thoughts about it?
They're going to come away with incredible experiences and build incredible relationships, be part of a community that's growing and like diversifying, expanding. For me, it's a personally no-brainer. I'd make the same decision again in a heartbeat. I actually left and chose to come back again just because I liked it the first time.
How was your experience with coming through the Ninja Teacher program and basically having that experience?
Mine was a bit of a weird one because of the timing of it all. I came in January 2020, just as COVID was like picking up, and I managed to stay around for 3 months. I did the Ninja Teacher course then, loved it, made some incredible connections with some incredible people. Went home, I ended up doing my master's, working at a school for a year. And then I knew that Vietnam was opening up. I spoke to Chi actually. She messaged me, I messaged her, and she told me that the borders were opening up and that she helped me get back here. And I was back by August of last year. Been almost a year now, loving every second of it.
I think especially when you're in your 20s, or even if you're in your 30s, just getting out there and doing something different, moving to another country, experiencing life outside of what you are used to, getting out of your comfort zone is worth it. Because as you get older, it gets harder to do that. And Vietnam, out of all the places that I visited, is a very nice place to come for foreigners. Yeah. So whether it's teaching you want to come out here for, or for traveling, or if you just want to see what it's like to live out here, I would 100% recommend it to anybody. I'm
Awesome.
still waiting for my friends to come join me.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. Well, thanks so much for joining. And to everyone watching this, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. And we have a video coming up after this where we're going to be chatting to Toro and Zach about the charity that is going on here. So stay tuned for that video as well. And they've been working on this charity, so that'll be a really fun video that's coming up. Okay. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.